Hello everyone, my name is Jose Avalos. I'm an associate level designer community at Avalanche Software, and in this tutorial we will see an advanced use of the Logic Gate Creativi-toy. In previous tutorials we had seen the basic usage of logic gates along with a scenario where enemies would respawn indefinitely after defeating them until they had reached a certain condition. In this particular case we're going to be doing a color block puzzle. So every time you jump on a block, it switches from green to red and from red to green. And it also affects the color of not just that block, but also of all other nearby blocks as well. So let's get going. The first toy that we're gonna need is the block itself, which is called color changing block. It's around here, this little gray cube, which we will place right here on the floor. My bad. Now we're gonna place the object that whenever you step on it will trigger the color change. In this case I'm just gonna put a trigger, but it can be a trigger area or whatever you want it to be. Next up is the logic gate. Obviously, since this is a tutorial on logic gates, and because the logic gate will determine into what color the block's gonna turn into. So we'll place it right here. And finally, we're gonna be using a color pressure plate, which in this case it can be either from the Kiln or the Brave toy box game. In this case I'm just gonna use Brave because they look really pretty. I know it's not the most deep of reasons, but it will do. Now, the first question that you may be asking yourself is, why do I need this color pressure plate when I can just perfectly have this, color changing block? The thing is that we aim it with the wand, we will see that it only makes logic connections when it is color changed, just a generic one. Whereas the color pressure plates has events for when it turns into specific colors, so when it turns blue, orange, green, purple, or red, which allows us more control over the gameplay flow. That is why we are using these color pressure plates. So let's say that we start, with the block turned red. So default color, red. Alright, good enough. And what's going to happen is that every time we step on this trigger, we're going to send an input to the logic gate. If the logic gate is open, we're going to be doing an output signal, which will turn this green and this green. And if the gate is closed, it's going to do the same thing, but it's going to turn red. Since logic gates by default are open when we place them, it's going to first execute the output signal if we send an input from the trigger. So first we aim to the trigger, a new logic connection stepped on player any to the logic gate, which will do an input. Now, the new logic connection output, this is what output, that means when you send an input to the logic gate and the logic gate is open, we will turn the color pressure plate, because that's going to be the manager on the overall flow, we're going to turn it into green. And same thing, if the gate is closed, it's going to execute an input block event, so we will tie it up to the set to red. Now, what we're going to do is that when the color pressure plate turns green, the color changing block turns green. And if it turns red, we will also turn the color changing block red. So let's do just that. So, new logic connection. When it turns green, the color changing block, we will turn it green. And same thing with the color red. Alright, but this is not the only thing. But now the thing that's going to happen is that if we step on it, since the logic gate is open, we will turn green. And that's going to be the end of it. So now we need to close the gate, so the next time we step on the plate, it will say, hey, what color do I need to turn? Turn red. Okay, turn red. And same thing. Whenever it turns red, we need to open the logic gate, so the next time it turns green. So New logic connection. Once this one turns red, we will open the logic gate. So next time we step on the trigger, it's gonna do input to the logic gate. That one will do an output, and that will turn the blocks green. And same thing, whenever it turns green, we close the logic. So that should be all, actually. So let's try it out. The gate by default is open, so if we step on it, it turns green. Awesome. Now let's try it again. Now the gate is closed, so it should turn red now. And now if we try it again, green. And so on and so forth. That's all we need to do in order to just change the color of one block. Now, for the other remaining blocks that you're gonna put in your level, they all behave the same way, so you can just place as many or as little as you need. In this tutorial, we're just gonna use 5, so the logic for them is exactly the same. Alright, now we have all these 5 blocks which change color every time you jump on them. So we're gonna test them one by one. It goes from red to green and green to red. Good. Red to green, green to red. This is the very first one we did, but same function. Red to green, green to red, and also red to green, green to red. Now, the question is, how do I affect the nearby blocks? So, the process of changing color starts by, when you press on the trigger, you send an input to the logic gate. So what we need to do, if we also, for example, from this block, I want to affect this block and this other block, is not just send from this trigger an input to this logic gate, but also from this trigger send an input to this logic gate and to this logic gate. So this trigger is going to send up 3 inputs to 3 different logic gates, each of which will, determine whether to turn the block green or red. So we'll do just that. So for this trigger, the only adjacent one is this one. So, new logic connection, stepped on player any. We send an input to that door. So if we try it out, these 2 blocks should turn green. Voila! And those 2 blocks turn red as well. Again. Now, for this block, we need to change the color of this block and this other block. So, let's do just that. New logic connection, stepped on player any, and we'll send to the logic gate of this block, we'll send an input. Same thing, new logic connection, stepped on player any, and we'll send an input to this logic. Same thing with this block. We need to change the color of this and this. So, new logic connection, stepped on player any, and this one. And now to the other logic gate. To this block is this one and this one. So, there we go. New logic connection, stepped on player any, so now the other enemies can change the color. Input and another input. And finally, this block is only gonna affect this one. So, new logic connection, stepped on player any, and we'll send an input to this logic gate, the one coordinated for this color changing block. So, yeah, that should be all. So let's try it out. So this block should affect these 2, which is exactly what it does. This block it affects the 3 of them. Great. This block affects the 3 of them. Good. This one, these 2, and finally these 2. Good. Now that all the color changing blocks are affecting, so if I jump on this one, I will change the color of also the 2 adjacent ones. Now we need to determine how do we end the puzzle. So the fastest way of doing this is by having a counter. So the counter, every time one of the color changing blocks turns green, we will increase 1 to the counter, and if it turns red, we will decrease from the counter. So we do it from new logic connection. Whenever the Brave color pressure plate turns green, we will add 1 to the counter, so increment by 1. And same thing, if it turns red, we will decrement 1 from the counter. Turn red. Not increment, decrement by 1. And we need to do these 2 logic connections in the same way for all the other 4 remaining color changing blocks. So, logic connection, turn screen, we will increment by 1. And if it turns red, we will decrement 1 from the counter. Now for the 3rd block. New logic connection, turn green, counter, increment by 1, and when it turns red, decrement. So far, so good. Now for the 4th block, we're almost done. One. Red. Decrement by 1. And the final color changing block. We're almost there. Yay! Green. Increment by 1 and decrement by 1. We're all done, with the counter. Now what we need to do is first determine the target count, or the goal, which in this case, since we have 5 blocks, it's going to be 5. Visible display, yeah, we need to see how well we're doing, and we'll start at 0. But now, whenever we reach the target, we are using the section enforcer I had placed here before, and let's say we'll make Nick Fury bloat. And yeah, well, for all the players. So now let's try solving this puzzle and see what happens. Let's see if this puzzle works. 2, okay. 0, but never mind. Still 2. And if I'm correct, if I jump on this block, it's gonna turn the 3 of them green, solving the puzzle. 5, and Nick Fury bloats. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, we have a puzzle that works correctly. So that's it for the tutorial on how to make, color changing block puzzles. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments or in the forums. I'm always available and, always willing to answer questions for you. I hope you have a great day, everyone, and well, take care.